James McKinstry used to be a banker.
I was very good at finance and helping people make money and make sound investments, but at the same time I wanted to also help children.
James switched careers and is now a special education teacher at the John Dodd Middle School in Freeport, Long Island.
Come on, sit up, follow along.
He teaches math and English to 15 seventh graders. 5 of his students have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, also known as ADHD.
Every day is a challenge. You get presented with different situations. There's a lot of different personalities going on in there. There's a lot of different needs that I have to fulfill.
Students with ADHD often have trouble remaining focused in the classroom and can be overactive, inattentive, and impulsive.
Their attention span is very, very short. I can't have the lesson go too long on certain topics because otherwise they'll lose interest very quickly.
Today, Pamela Milazzo has come to observe James's classroom.
Hi, Jim. I'm Pam Milazzo. Nice to meet you.
Pam is an ADHD expert.
Tell me a little bit about the makeup of your class.
It's a condition she knows well. She's been diagnosed with ADHD herself.
ADHD is really an understimulation of the brain. Parts of the brain that enable you to basically block everything out and pay attention to what you need to pay attention to, that part of the brain isn't working.
James is looking for advice on improving in-class transitions and keeping his students engaged and on point.
Guys, the notebook should be open. We should be writing down. Okay, what's on the board? Okay.
Some of the struggles I'm having is the transitioning from one part of the lesson to the next. I'm trying to make it a little bit more of a smooth transition.
Every day, James begins class with a do now.
Okay, for your do now, in your notebooks that are coming around, what is one legend that you have heard of? If you have not heard a legend before, then please describe what the definition means to you in 2 to 3 sentences.
I loved your do now. I thought that was great.
Afterwards, Pam meets with James to talk about the class.
It was a PowerPoint presentation. You weren't having to sit there and write it on the board old-fashioned way. They were sitting and waiting. And you kept it up there so that they could refer to it.
Guys, try to think about this on your own. Yes, Kenny. Don't give an example. Do not give an answer.
One of the things that I would suggest, you want to make sure that before they actually get into the assignment, they know exactly what's required of them. If you don't want them to raise their hand and answer the question, then there should be a clear direction that I'm going to ask this question, and then when you finish, I want you to place your answer in the workbook.
Following the do now, James transitions to his main lesson, understanding fiction.
Okay, guys. We're going to start in now, all right? Like we've been talking about, this unit is going to be on fiction. Okay, we're going to go over the review a little bit. Mrs. Decker and Mr. Smart are going to hand out the notebooks.
2 teaching assistants help out, but James still struggles to get all his students focused on the new topic. Transitions can be particularly challenging for students with ADHD.
When you are transitioning, we tend to think of this as one thing that they're doing. But in fact, there are a number of bits of information that they have to remember as they are transitioning from one thing to another. What materials do you need to put away? What materials do you need to take out? What supplies do you need? Where are you going to put your homework?
Pam suggests that visual cues can keep students on track during transitions.
They can actually be given a small slip of paper at the beginning of class that serves as a checklist. That can be on the desk. You can also use a larger sign on the desk that is a permanent thing that they are referring to. They've got a cue in order to follow the beginning of the classroom routine.
Once students have transitioned into the lesson, the next challenge is keeping them focused.
What? Why? What is he doing here? Does he ever stop talking? Okay, Ruben.
Another way to keep students on task is to use a timer.
Have you seen these? This is a timer.
Actually, I use something like this in quite a few of my lessons on the smartboard.
If you're going to give them, say, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever it is, you know, what you can do with a time timer, which is so nice, is that it's showing them in red how much 5 minutes means.
Right.
And they're able to see that time moving backwards, okay? Now, for some students, it's kind of like a beat the clock type of a thing.
I have done the timer, and it does work, and I need to infuse it a little bit more, but also I try not to pressure the students. I try to have like as little pressure in the environment as possible.
But the right amount of pressure will actually cause that adrenaline to start going,
right.
and boom, they start to focus and pay attention.
Teachers should always be prepared for unexpected disruptions.
Tony, let's have a seat right here.
What?
Okay, just sit down.
I can't take it back.
I know, just sit down.
How am I?
Okay, Tony. We're gonna write the do now. Look at the do now up on the board.
Need a pencil, Tony?
I know that the students all have some issues going on. It's all about maturity and looking at it from the point of view of the students. They're not maliciously trying to do that to me, anything that negative that they're doing. It's just their behavior. So you can't take it personally.
Students with ADHD can get frustrated easily and may need help getting back on track.
Look how good this is. You see this?
Yeah.
You see how well we wrote this? Good. You see how well you wrote that? Oh, you have a heart here?
I'd like to talk about the situation that occurred with the student
Okay.
in class. You did that brilliantly.
Right.
I don't know that there was much else that you could have done in that classroom setting.
What I tried to do was just refocus that student
Right.
back onto task. And that's my approach for all the students, is just a gentle redirection, mostly agreeing with what they're saying. And a lot of times it won't even make sense to the student with what they're saying, but I think just being supportive and positive
Right.
in those situations means a lot more than to them, knowing that you're there for them, rather than you're going to punish them or they're going to get in trouble.
Students can be redirected in many ways.
That's what you did.
Wow, I wasn't mad at you last week. There's a smile.
Maybe I'm sorry.
So that's why you're smiling?
No.
Okay.
The idea here is to create strategies that work for that particular student.
One way to find out what works for individual students is to ask them.
Take a few minutes and have a discussion with the class. You ask a couple of questions of what's going on. What are the things that are making it challenging for you to pay attention right now? What kinds of things have you used to help you redirect yourself back to the class?
In a way, I feel a little guilty because we're not covering the curriculum at that point, but
Right.
in turn, they need that redirection back onto themselves so that they could kind of internalize and see where their problems may lie with paying attention.
Okay. You have a wonderful relationship with these kids
Thanks.
and great class.
Thank you.
Great class. Thank you.
Okay.
A few days later, James tries out some of Pam's suggestions. He uses both verbal and written cues when giving instructions.
What I want you to do is, what are 2 types of nonfiction? Give examples for each.
Cueing is very effective because it allows me to interject what we're going to get to before we actually do it. So it gives the kids a little foresight into what the lesson's going to be about in hopes of sparking that interest.
Now that you have examples that you've written down from the other slide, it should be much easier for you to do this.
James also uses a timer.
I want each of you to be done before the timer hits 0. I put it up to 4 minutes, so we're counting down.
The advice that Pam gave me was very, very good. It worked extremely well to put the timer on the board. She recommended that I put a timer on the do now. Along with the timer, I kind of infused my own strategy of now playing a game with them, telling them, well, everyone needs to be done before this certain time is up. Because you can't really just leave a timer up there and then just say, here, this is your time, and not make it competitive for the students because they need to have something to work for.
Okay, guys. Shh. Bring it back. Shh. What do we have for some examples? Jacob, go ahead. Okay, guys. I'll see you later. Yep.
I'm extremely proud of the students, and I feel that this population has the ability, just as all students do, to overcome the challenges that are put in front of them with the right support and the right teaching.
Give clear directions so students know what is required of them. Provide checklists and other visual cues for classroom procedures. Use a timer to motivate students. Ask students what works for them